The internet is buzzing with startling rumors about Rick Harrison, the familiar face behind porn stars. Whispers are spreading fast, claiming that Rick, whose real name is Richard Harrison, has been handed a life sentence in prison. This shocking news has left loyal fans in total disbelief. Known for his expert knowledge in rare collectibles and his razor-sharp negotiation tactics, Rick was more than just a TV personality. He was the linchpin of one of Las Vegas's most iconic pawn shops, a figure who represented trust, wisdom, and authority in a world full of chaos. Now, however, that trusted image is at risk of falling apart. If these rumors are true, the foundation of what we thought we knew about him might be crumbling. For years, Pawn Stars was the go-to show for a unique blend of high-stakes haggling, extraordinary antiques, and the captivating personalities that made the business world come to life. Millions of viewers tuned in, not just for the antiques but for the individuals behind the counter, especially Rick Harrison, whose presence exuded strength and fairness. But recently the focus has shifted, and it's no longer just about the deals being struck on the show. Rick Harrison is now at the center of a darker, more troubling narrative. The rumors surrounding him suggest he may be facing serious legal consequences, painting a starkly different picture than the one we've come to know from the pawn shop floor. What's truly going on behind the scenes? Are these rumors about his legal battles grounded in truth? We must dive into the details of this emerging story to uncover what's really happening with Rick Harrison. Before we dive deeper into Rick Harrison's shocking story, where are you from? Let us know in the comments below. It's wonderful connecting with viewers worldwide. Richard Harrison, better known to millions as Rick Harrison, was born on March 22, 1965, in Lexington, North Carolina. Long before he became the sharp-witted deal-maker on Pawn Stars, Rick's early life was anything but smooth. At just 2 years old, his family uprooted and moved to San Diego, California, where he would spend his formative years. At the age of 8, Rick was diagnosed with epilepsy, a condition that disrupted his schooling and often kept him at home. While other kids played outside or sat in classrooms, Rick found escape in books. He dove deep into history, page after page, building a mental archive that would one day give him a unique edge in the pawn business. What began as a medical setback quietly transformed him into a walking encyclopedia, one that would eventually become his secret weapon in the high-stakes world of buying and selling the past. Rick's life took a dramatic turn when illness forced him to drop out during his sophomore year of high school. Most would have seen that as a dead end, but not Rick. Instead, he channeled that setback into fuel for self-education, diving deep into subjects like business and history. While his peers were in classrooms, Rick was out in the real world, learning side by side with his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, better known to fans as the Old Man. From a young age, Rick was exposed to the ins and outs of hustling, haggling, and judging the true worth of just about anything. That street-level schooling gave him a sharp eye and an instinct for authenticity skills that would later catapult him into the spotlight and form the bedrock of his empire. At just 17, Rick faced a life-changing moment when his girlfriend Kim was pregnant. The two quickly married and became young parents to sons, Corey and Adam. But after 8 years, the marriage unraveled. In 1981, the family relocated to Las Vegas, where Rick's father launched a modest coin shop. That humble store laid the foundation for something far bigger. By 1989, it evolved into the gold and silver pawn shop, an unassuming storefront that would one day become world famous as the beating heart of Pawn Stars. Those first years were anything but smooth. Rick and his father faced a non-stop grind, handling everything from shady deals to unpredictable customers. Every day brought a new challenge, and nothing came easy. But out of that chaos, Rick sharpened his eye for rare treasures and built a solid name in Vegas as an expert on all things historical and collectible. By the early 2000s, he saw more than just business in the pawn world. He saw a show waiting to happen. He pitched the idea of turning his shop's daily drama into a TV series, but the networks weren't biting. Still, Rick refused to quit. After years of rejection, his persistence finally paid off. In 2009, the History Channel gave him the green light and Pawn Stars hit the air, changing everything overnight. Pawn Stars pulled back the curtain on a world most people had never seen, where rare artifacts, wild stories, and high-stakes haggling collided behind a pawn shop counter. The show brought together Rick, his sharp-tongued father known as the Old Man, his no-nonsense son Corey Big Hoss, and their lovable wildcard Chumley. Together they turned simple deals into must-watch television. Each episode mixed quirky customer encounters with fascinating history lessons, as the team appraised everything from vintage weapons to one-of-a-kind collectibles. When the show debuted, it exploded in popularity, turning Rick from a small-time shop owner into a national star. Viewers were drawn to his blunt honesty, deep expertise, and ruthless deal-making. His signature phrase, "The best I can do is," became a pop culture catchphrase, signaling that someone was about to leave with less than they hoped for. Pawn Stars wasn't just addictive TV, it was surprisingly educational. Each deal came with a history lesson, diving into the stories behind the rare and unusual items brought into the shop. That blend of curiosity and nostalgia pulled in viewers of all ages and made the show a standout hit on the History Channel. Rick's vision turned a regular pawn shop into a global attraction. What was once just a storefront on Las Vegas Boulevard became a must-see destination. Tourists lined up not just to browse, but to catch a glimpse of the stars or maybe even land a moment on camera. Business boomed. Rick capitalized on the buzz, expanding into branded merchandise, best-selling books, and even launching a restaurant, all built on the back of a pawn empire powered by TV fame. Rick Harrison's influence quickly expanded far beyond Pawn Stars. He became a familiar face on talk shows, featured in top magazines, and a popular guest at business conferences. Audiences were drawn to his no-nonsense approach to success, turning lessons from the pawn counter into real-world advice. His story resonated with aspiring entrepreneurs everywhere. Behind the scenes, Rick was the mastermind driving the show's success. Known for his calm, strategic mindset, he often stepped in to steer Corey's impulsive moves or reel in Chumley's wild behavior. His leadership wasn't flashy, it was steady, smart, and decisive. What makes Rick's journey even more compelling is where it began. He dropped out of school as a teen battling epilepsy, but instead of letting it define him, he built an empire. From a small shop in Las Vegas to global fame, Rick didn't just find success, he created it. And while Pawn Stars may evolve, one thing remains clear: Rick Harrison is the heart of the show, the force that turned a simple pawn shop into a cultural phenomenon. And on a scale from 1 to 10, how inspiring do you find Rick Harrison's journey from dropping out of school to building an empire despite battling epilepsy? Share your thoughts and let us know why you feel that way in the comments below. Rick Harrison's connection with his father, Richard Old Man Harrison, ran far deeper than family ties. It was a partnership built on grit, loyalty, and a shared vision shaped by decades behind the pawn counter. Together, they didn't just create the gold and silver pawn shop, they built a legacy grounded in sharp instincts and unwavering integrity. When the Old Man died in 2018, Rick didn't just inherit a business, he inherited a code. And every deal he's made since has been a tribute to the values his father lived by: smart, honest, and tough as nails. Rick Harrison may have struck gold in business, but his personal life hasn't been quite as smooth. His second marriage to Tracy Harrison lasted an impressive 27 years before ending in divorce in 2011, a quiet ending to a long chapter. Just 2 years later, Rick tied the knot again, this time with Deanna Burdett. The wedding wasn't your average affair. Danny Coker from Counting Cars led the ceremony, while fan favorite Chumley added some humor as the ring bearer. It was flashy, fun, and very Vegas, but even with all the charm, Rick's search for lasting love has had its fair share of bumps. Rick Harrison didn't stop at reality TV fame. He turned his success into a growing empire. Right next to his iconic pawn shop, he launched Rick's Rollin' Smoke BBQ and Tavern, blending barbecue with business at the heart of Las Vegas. Back in 2011, he also released License to Pawn, a revealing book packed with untold stories from behind the counter. Known for his sharp eye and instincts, Rick has handled everything from ancient relics to vintage cars. Yet what really sets him apart is his willingness to admit when he doesn't know something. He regularly calls in experts, not out of weakness, but because smart businessmen know when to listen. Rick once scored big with a surprising find: a 2001 New England Patriots Super Bowl ring, snagged for just $2,600. At the time, it seemed like a bold buy, but its value skyrocketed later, making it one of his smartest moves. Even more jaw-dropping was his acquisition of Spanish gold coins recovered from a 1715 shipwreck. That wasn't just a business deal, it revealed his deep fascination with lost treasures and pieces of forgotten history. Despite his success, Rick's life took a sudden and unexpected turn in 2023 when he found himself at the center of a federal investigation. It stunned both his fans and inner circle. A team of FBI agents, IRS officials, and members of the Department of Cultural Heritage Protection raided both his Las Vegas home and the gold and silver pawn shop, leaving everyone questioning what was behind the dramatic move. At the time of the raid, witnesses described a scene straight out of a thriller. Customers and staff were held as agents, seized computers, documents, and several artifacts from the store. Corey Harrison, Rick's son, was present and later remarked how quickly everything unfolded. It almost felt like a dream. Soon after, videos of Rick being escorted by Secret Service agents from his home spread like wildfire on social media, sparking rampant speculation. As the investigation unraveled, it became clear that authorities were looking into serious accusations, a complex scheme involving tax evasion, money laundering, and the illegal sale of questionable artifacts. The probe was triggered by flagged transactions and complaints from former business partners. Despite the mounting public scrutiny, Rick has maintained a composed demeanor, continuing to run his business while waiting for the investigation to clarify the truth. Despite the challenges, Rick Harrison has undeniably cemented his place as one of reality TV's most influential figures. His transformation from a quiet, bookish boy to a savvy businessman and porn star's legend speaks volumes about his resilience, skill, and adaptability. After the raid, the History Channel halted production of Porn Stars, issuing a brief statement that it was closely monitoring the situation and would decide on next steps once more information surfaced. Meanwhile, the gold and silver pawn shop stayed open, though business had taken a hit due to the ongoing legal drama surrounding Rick. Rick's team was quick to assert his innocence, insisting the investigation was a misunderstanding that would soon be resolved. His attorney, David Marshall, a well-known Las Vegas lawyer with a history of celebrity clients, confidently stated that Rick had always operated his business with transparency and in full compliance with the law. But as the investigation unfolded, unsettling details began to surface. Authorities claim they have evidence suggesting Rick orchestrated a scheme to deliberately undervalue historical artifacts to lower his tax burden while secretly selling them at their true market value. Investigators further allege that Rick used intermediaries to acquire stolen items, including historically significant documents and rare artifacts previously held by museums and private collectors. Court records later revealed that the investigation began after a former employee of Rick's decided to come forward. The person claimed to have been directly involved in the acquisition of many of the valuable items and provided information about a private accounting system used to record sensitive transactions that Rick wanted to keep off the official books. Rick was arrested shortly thereafter, but was released on bail just a day later and quickly faced court. He was charged with a variety of serious crimes, including tax evasion, money laundering, dealing in stolen property, and conspiracy to illegally purchase historical artifacts. Although attorney David Marshall continued to maintain his client's innocence, the pressure from the prosecution grew. The trial stretched on for nearly a year with a constant flow of damning evidence. At first, Rick denied all charges, holding firm in his innocence. But as former associates took the stand and testified against him, his position grew increasingly precarious. The prosecution presented a mountain of financial records, encrypted communications, and testimonies from ex-employees who claimed Rick had instructed them to alter records to cover up large illicit transactions. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was a series of messages between Rick and an unidentified supplier. In these messages, Rick allegedly discussed methods to erase the provenance of an 18th century document believed to have been stolen from a university archive. In another conversation, he purportedly devised a scheme to bypass reporting requirements for substantial cash payments. Throughout the trial, Rick stood his ground, making regular appearances on various television shows, particularly on conservative-leaning channels. He portrayed himself as the target of a concerted effort to ruin both his reputation and the success of porn stars. Supporters rallied behind him, creating hashtags like #FreeRick and staging protests outside the courthouse to express their frustration with the handling of the case. However, for many, Rick's fall from grace was a stunning blow. The image of a shrewd, no-nonsense businessman on TV was now overshadowed by a tangle of serious legal troubles, leaving fans and critics alike in disbelief. The judge's final decision left everyone from seasoned lawyers to bystanders reeling in shock. As the verdict was read, the courtroom plunged into a heavy silence. Throughout the trial, Rick had shown little emotion, but at that moment he went visibly pale. His son, Corey, lowered his head and covered his face, while Chumley, his longtime friend, hurried out in tears. Some observers remarked that the sentence seemed severe given the accusations, yet the judge underscored that this was more than a matter of financial crimes. It was a penalty for the irreplaceable damage Rick had wrought upon cultural and historical treasures. Despite the ongoing controversy, many of Rick's loyal fans rallied behind him, convinced he deserved sympathy. They organized support groups on social media, reminding everyone of the positive impact porn stars had in making history more accessible and engaging than ever before. "Rick taught me to love history in a way that school never could," one fan expressed. "Now it's our turn to show him we haven't forgotten the good he's done." These supporters emphasized that Rick's contributions to bringing history to life for millions should not be overshadowed by his legal troubles. "Mr. Harrison, you presented yourself to the American public as a protector of history, someone who values artifacts and treasures our shared heritage," the judge remarked during sentencing. "Yet in truth, you were involved in an illegal trafficking network that played a part in the systematic looting and destruction of irreplaceable cultural treasures for personal profit. This court cannot ignore the severity of your actions." The judge's words reverberated through the courtroom, sealing the fate of Rick Harrison and bringing an end to the storied career of the beloved porn star's figure. Immediately after the verdict was delivered, Rick's legal team filed for an appeal, arguing that the sentence was overly harsh and infringed upon his civil rights, given the non-violent nature of the crime. They also sought to have Rick released on bail while the appeal was processed, but this request was swiftly denied. The image of Rick being escorted out of the courtroom in handcuffs quickly dominated newspapers and social media. Public opinion split sharply. Many of Rick's devoted fans remained skeptical, suspecting there was more to the case than met the eye, and believed he had become a scapegoat for broader issues within the artifact trade. Meanwhile, historians and experts in cultural heritage praised the tough sentence, viewing it as a vital step in combating the illegal trafficking of precious historical items. In response to the verdict, Rick's fan base rallied behind him with the Hearts for Harrison campaign, gathering over 100,000 signatures, demanding a re-evaluation of the sentence. "We don't deny that Rick may have made a mistake, but this sentence isn't justice, it's revenge," argued Melissa Jenkins, the campaign's organizer. "A life sentence for a non-violent crime is simply unjust. We urge everyone to sign the petition or donate to Rick's legal fund. Every prayer, every supportive message, every small contribution can help ensure he gets a fair shot at an appeal." Corey Harrison, Rick's son, spoke out with emotion. "My father may have made mistakes, but he didn't deserve to die in prison. He deserves a chance to make things right." Meanwhile, the History Channel wasted no time in distancing itself from Rick, officially cancelling porn stars and removing all reruns from its schedule. In a statement, the network expressed profound disappointment in Rick's actions, emphasizing its unwavering commitment to preserving and respecting cultural heritage. Once a beloved figure in television, Rick Harrison now faces an entirely different reality, one dominated by controversy, legal battles, and lingering uncertainties. Do you believe Rick Harrison's legal troubles are a misunderstanding, or do you think there's more to the story? Drop a yes if you think he's innocent, or a no if you believe the accusations are true. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Before his legal issues, Rick Harrison was a well-known figure not only on reality TV, but also as a successful businessman who expanded his reach far beyond the gold and silver pawn shop. His entrepreneurial drive led him to launch a series of restaurants and bars in Las Vegas, with future plans to branch out into other cities. Despite the damage the scandal has caused to his public image, Rick's business achievements and legacy in the industry are impossible to overlook. At present, Corey Harrison has stepped up to manage the gold and silver pawn shop entirely. While business initially suffered after the scandal, the shop remains a popular spot in Las Vegas. To rebuild trust, Corey has focused on rebranding, prioritizing transparency in all transactions, and forging partnerships with museums and educational institutions to promote ethical collecting practices. In an emotional interview 6 months after Rick's conviction, Corey shared the difficulties of keeping the family business afloat while confronting the issues raised during the trial. "We've implemented strict verification processes for every purchase," Corey explained. "What happened was wrong, and we're committed to being part of the solution, not the problem." Austin "Chumley" Russell, who considered Rick a father figure and mentor, also expressed mixed emotions. "I learned a lot from Rick's solid business principles that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life," Chumley shared in a podcast interview. "But I had to come to terms with the fact that there was a side to him I didn't see, or maybe just didn't want to see." For the Harrison family, the focus has shifted to supporting Rick through his appeal while working tirelessly to restore the pawnshop's reputation and secure its future. Corey's decision to take over the business surprised many, especially given his impulsive reputation on Pawn Stars. However, his sharp business sense has proven he's more than capable of guiding the family legacy. "The messages of support from fans have been a lifeline for my dad," Corey shared in a recent press release. He revealed that he personally reads every letter he receives and feels strengthened by the outpouring of belief in the Harrison family. Amid the turmoil, the family has organized Sunday vigils in front of the pawn shop, where loyal fans gather to show their support for Rick. For those unable to attend in person, the family encourages them to send letters, cards, or even photos from their cherished Pawn Stars moments. "Those small gestures make a huge difference to a man facing the darkest time of his life," Corey explained. Despite the challenges, he remains confident that the gold and silver pawn shop will endure. "My dad taught me everything about this business," he noted. "The strong values he instilled are the foundation I'm building on now. We've made some big mistakes, but this shop has been a part of Las Vegas for over 30 years, and I'm determined to ensure it thrives for at least another 30. Rick Harrison's journey has been nothing short of remarkable. From a modest pawnbroker to a successful businessman, reality TV icon, and now a convicted inmate, his drastic transformation serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly fortunes can change, especially under the unforgiving glare of fame. Cultural critics have drawn comparisons between Rick's downfall and a Shakespearean tragedy, where a man deeply immersed in history ultimately turns the very artifacts he once valued into tools of his own undoing. His story has evolved into a stark cautionary tale, illustrating the dangers of success and the thin line between savvy business moves and criminal activity. This shocking turn of events has rocked the reality TV world and left his family business in a vulnerable state, now without the charismatic leader who once propelled it forward. In these tough times, Rick Harrison could really use the support of his fans. If you've enjoyed the years of entertainment he provided on Pawn Stars, consider sending words of encouragement, positive messages, or prayers. The Harrison family has set up a dedicated website where fans can leave messages that will be sent to Rick in prison. The family has mentioned that these messages have been a source of comfort and strength for him. Additionally, the website offers an address for physical letters, hoping each one can bring a little light into Rick's life during this difficult period. As the family highlighted, Rick has always valued his Pawn Stars audience, and knowing that you're still there for him means more than ever. A wave of sorrow now washes over America as this devastating news spreads from the courthouse. Known to millions for his remarkable ability to communicate with canines, he once seemed untouchable. In a heartbreaking turn of events, Cesar Milan, formerly celebrated worldwide as the Dog Whisperer, collapsed in a Los Angeles courtroom after hearing his sentence, leaving everyone present in a state of shock. Yet now, people find themselves wondering what happens next had they truly believed this beloved dog behaviorist could never fall from grace. The rise and fall of a dog whisperer. His philosophy went deeper than obedience. It was about energy, self-awareness, and emotional harmony. As he often said, to change a dog, you must first change yourself. The show ran for 8 seasons and made Cesar a household name. His books, including Cesar's Way and How to Raise the Perfect Dog, became instant bestsellers, But more than fame or fortune, Cesar Milan became a symbol of hope, for owners at their wits' end and for anyone who believed in second chances. His journey from a homeless immigrant to a global icon wasn't just inspiring, it was proof of what's possible when passion meets perseverance. Over 2 decades later, his voice, his vision, and his message continue to resonate, grounded in one timeless truth. The bond between human and dog is sacred, and when treated with respect, it can change lives. Calm, assertive leadership. Fate took a turn when he crossed paths with actress Jada Pinkett Smith. After witnessing his gift with her own dog, she did more than thank him. She paid for an English tutor so he could communicate his knowledge more clearly. With time, hard-earned savings, and sheer willpower, Cesar opened his own dog psychology center in Los Angeles. Soon, whispers of the dog whisperer spread like wildfire. The big break came when the New York Times ran a feature on him. That article sparked a call from National Geographic, offering him a chance to bring his methods to the world. In 2004, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milan premiered, and everything changed. Each week, viewers watched in awe as he stepped into homes filled with chaos and fear, and through patience and presence, restored peace. From homeless dreamer to household name, Cesar Milan was born on August 27, 1969, in Culiacan, Sinaloa, Mexico. From the time he was a young boy, dogs weren't just part of his world, they were his world. At just 11 years old, he wasn't merely caring for dogs, he was connecting with them on a level few ever do. That deep understanding became the foundation of everything he would one day achieve. At 21, driven by a dream too big to ignore, Cesar crossed the border into the United States in 1990, determined to create a better life. But Los Angeles didn't welcome him with open arms. He arrived with no money, no English, and no safety net. For a time, he slept on the streets, surviving day by day. He washed cars, walked dogs, and groomed pets, whatever it took to stay afloat. But even in those hardest moments, his focus never wavered. He watched, he listened, he learned. He studied the way dogs moved, how they responded to energy, and slowly began shaping his signature method. But as the science behind animal behavior advanced, the tide began to turn. Critics, veterinary behaviorists, animal welfare advocates, even disillusioned former clients started to push back. New research challenged the effectiveness and ethics of dominance-based training, casting a long shadow over Milan's once revered methods. The case against Milan took root nearly a year ago, sparked by anonymous tips that questioned the ethics behind his training methods. What began as a simple inquiry into his facilities quickly unraveled into a much deeper and darker investigation. Federal agents say they stumbled upon a trail of financial misconduct tied to Milan's global ventures and his charitable foundation. According to prosecutors, the famed dog trainer was at the center of a tangled web, illegally importing exotic animals for live demos, dodging taxes through his international operations, and diverting funds meant to help rescue animals. To millions across the globe, Cesar Milan wasn't just a dog trainer, he was a legend. With his calm presence and almost mystical ability to tame even the most aggressive dogs, he became a household name through his long-running National Geographic series. Viewers were mesmerized as he turned chaos into harmony, guiding both pets and their overwhelmed owners toward balance. For almost 20 years, Cesar Milan stood as the global symbol of dog training. His hit TV show reached audiences in more than 80 countries, his best-selling books flew off the shelves, and his techniques were embraced by dog owners around the world. He preached a philosophy of calm, assertive energy, and championed the idea of the human as the pack leader, an approach that didn't just make him famous, it made him a multi-millionaire with a fortune topping $25 million. The picture they painted wasn't just of a man breaking the rules. It was of a celebrity who had used his fame as a shield, living as if the law didn't apply to him. The most damning accusation, and the one that sealed Milan's fate with a life sentence, centered on claims that his dog psychology center had unknowingly contributed to the deaths of several deeply traumatized dogs. Prosecutors argued that the training techniques used were not only harsh, but outright inhumane, pushing already fragile animals past their limits. They painted a haunting image of suffering behind closed doors, masked by a reputation for rehabilitation. Milan, however, stood firm in his defense. He claimed the dogs brought to his center were in critical condition, many already slated for euthanasia. His team had accepted them as a last chance, a desperate bid to save lives that others had given up on. In his words, these weren't victims of mistreatment. They were victims of circumstance. And the investigation concluded that Milan had not violated animal protection laws, according to the Los Angeles Times. Although the incident damaged his public image, he retained support from fans who found his methods effective, highlighting the polarization within the community. Do you think Cesar Milan deserves life in prison for his controversial training methods and past mistakes, or has the justice system gone too far? Let me know your take in the comments. I'm ready for some heated debate on this one. The third incident, considered the most infamous, resulted in Milan being summoned to court. US authorities investigated the famous dog trainer following allegations of animal abuse stemming from a controversial clip from his Cesar 911 inches show. Investigators from the Los Angeles County Animal Control Unit visited Milan's Dog Psychology Center in Santa Clarita to investigate the matter. The investigation was prompted by an episode in which Milan used a live pig during the training of a dog named Simon, who had a history of attacking pigs. In the episode, Simon bit the pig's ear, causing it to bleed before being stopped. This footage sparked widespread outrage from animal rights activists and the public, leading to numerous calls for an investigation and an online petition demanding the cancellation of Milan's show. Laura Nardo, a professional dog trainer who initiated the petition, described the scene as disturbing and stated that it was not an appropriate method for rehabilitating a dog aggressive towards pigs. The television network Geo Wild, which aired Milan's show, defended him, asserting that Cesar Milan had dedicated his life to helping dogs and created a controlled, safe environment at his center to rehabilitate aggressive dogs like Simon. They also stated that the pig that was bitten received immediate care and quickly recovered without any psychological trauma. However, the investigation continued, and despite strong defense of Milan's training methods by supporters and the network, investigators gathered further information and carefully reviewed the evidence. After investigation, authorities concluded that there were sufficient grounds to charge Cesar Milan with animal cruelty. As these stories emerged, experts in animal behavior began to speak out louder than ever. Dr. Eleanor Williams, a respected veterinary behaviorist, testified, "What we've learned about dog cognition and emotion in the past decade has completely transformed how we approach training. Methods based on dominance theory and force are not only unnecessary but can create or worsen behavioral problems. The science is clear on this." The prosecution initiated the trial by presenting a range of accusations, concentrating on earlier events and anxieties about Milan's training approach rooted in dominance. The prosecutor underscored that these techniques induced needless fear, stress, and in certain instances, physical injury to the very animals Milan professed to assist. Conversely, Milan's legal representative adamantly refuted these claims, asserting that Milan was a genuine animal enthusiast who had devoted his life to aiding troubled dogs and their owners. The attorney argued that while his methods might be contentious, they consistently aimed for the ultimate well-being and happiness of the animals. Controversy, courtroom, and a divided legacy. Hero or villain? Milan's rise to fame wasn't built overnight, and neither was his fall. His career, once celebrated, unraveled not because of a single misstep, but because of a pattern of questionable practices that finally caught up with him. Despite his captivating performances, his methods are often forceful and lack a logical basis. Numerous videos show him getting bitten, suggesting a lack of understanding and skill in handling dogs. This casts doubt on his knowledge of animal behavior and proper training techniques. Furthermore, Milan's practice of placing dogs in high-stress, potentially dangerous scenarios to correct them is problematic. These scenes, intended to be entertaining, are concerning because he pushes dogs into challenging situations without adequate psychological preparation. Such stressful exposure can worsen fear and instability, indicating that the focus is more on creating drama than on truly helping the animals. Numerous animal welfare organizations and veterinary professionals have criticized this approach, arguing that its emphasis on dominance through methods like leash corrections can induce stress and fear in dogs. They contend that such techniques are inconsistent with current knowledge of canine behavior. Moreover, Cesar Milan has faced legal scrutiny, having been called to court in connection with 3 prominent animal abuse allegations. A significant event involved the 2007 death of a dog named Baby, whose owner alleged that Milan's training methods caused the animal's demise. Baby's owner, Sarah, had an incredibly strong bond with her beloved dog. The small French bulldog, characterized by its large eyes and playful demeanor, had brought immense joy and unwavering affection into her life since being adopted from a rescue 3 years prior. Recently, however, Baby had developed anxiety and exhibited excessive barking, particularly around unfamiliar people. In search of a solution, Sarah turned to Cesar Milan, believing him to be the most qualified expert available. In 2007, Cesar Milan was at the peak of his popularity with his show Dog Whisperer. Sarah, having watched every episode, was mesmerized by his apparent ability to connect with and rehabilitate troubled dogs. She sincerely believed he was the only one who could help Baby conquer her anxieties and regain her former happiness. Filled with hope, Sarah contacted Milan's training facility and scheduled a private session. The training session was held in a spacious outdoor area at Milan's center. Sarah felt a degree of apprehension as she watched Cesar approach Baby. His demeanor was not gentle or affectionate, but rather projected an air of confidence and authority unlike any dog trainer she had encountered before. The session began with Cesar instructing Sarah to step back while he took Baby for a walk on his own. Sarah observed with a mix of curiosity and unease as Cesar began employing techniques she had seen on his show, including loud tst sounds, sharp leash corrections, and assertive body language. Initially, Baby seemed somewhat confused, but her anxiety soon intensified. The small dog attempted to retreat, her eyes wide with fear as Cesar continued to exert pressure. Sarah felt a pang of discomfort, but reassured herself that Cesar was the expert and knew what he was doing. However, as the session progressed, Baby began to pant heavily and showed increasing signs of distress. In one particular exercise, Cesar attempted to force Baby to approach a stranger standing several meters away. Baby reacted by barking aggressively and trying to get away, but Cesar held the leash taut, preventing her from retreating. Following a series of intense exercises, Baby collapsed. Sarah immediately rushed over, calling out her dog's name. Cesar quickly joined her, but it was too late. Sarah's little French bulldog was lying still, no longer breathing. Sarah was heartbroken. Tears streamed down her face as she held Baby's lifeless body in her arms. Grief and anger overwhelmed her. She had placed her trust in Cesar Milan, believing he would help her dog, but instead she felt his aggressive training methods had led to Baby's death. Sarah remains convinced to this day that Cesar Milan bears responsibility for Baby's passing. Similarly, the 2010 Layla case drew attention when the dog died after a seizure during filming. While the owners initially questioned Milan's training techniques, medical tests later revealed the death was due to epilepsy, a pre-existing condition unrelated to Milan's actions, according to People magazine. Nevertheless, incidents like these fueled public skepticism regarding the safety of his methods, especially when dealing with animals with health issues. The controversy peaked in 2014 when a video clip from Cesar Milan's Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milan went viral, depicting him using the alpha roll technique on a German shepherd named Daddy, resulting in accusations of animal abuse. In the video, Milan pinned Daddy to the ground, holding him on his back to assert dominance, while the dog appeared frightened and struggled to break free. Numerous viewers and animal rights groups, including the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, criticized this action as violent, claiming it could induce stress and fear in dogs and was inconsistent with modern understanding of canine behavior. In response, Milan defended his actions, stating that Daddy was an aggressive dog with a history of attacks and that the alpha roll was necessary to control him and ensure safety for both the dog and those around him. He emphasized that this method was based on practical experience to establish leadership and that Daddy's behavior improved after the training, enabling him to live peacefully with his family. In a 2015 statement, Milan reaffirmed, "I always put the health and happiness of dogs first," emphasizing his commitment. While some experts supported him, arguing that the technique might be necessary in cases of aggressive dogs, the debate continues. The controversial video triggered widespread criticism, with many calling for a boycott of Milan's show and demanding he be held accountable. However, no legal action was taken. Throughout the strained proceedings, Cesar Milan steadfastly maintained his innocence, asserting that the unfortunate deaths of dogs at his center stemmed from their already compromised health. He characterized them as animals with severe psychological trauma, some of whom were scheduled for euthanasia before being accepted into his center, the most desperate cases, unwanted and deeply scarred. The situation dramatically shifted when the witnesses were called to testify. These were dogs no one else would touch, testified Dr. Maria Rodriguez, a veterinarian who worked with Milan's foundation. They had been severely abused, starved, used in fighting rings. Many had injuries and health issues that went untreated for years. Cesar was their last hope, and he took these cases knowing the risks because he couldn't bear to see any dog given up on without trying to help. Dr. Rodriguez's words paint a haunting picture. These weren't just difficult dogs. They were the forgotten ones, victims of cruelty, starvation, and brutal fighting rings. Many were broken in body and spirit with wounds, both physical and emotional, that had been ignored for years. No one else would go near them. No one, except Cesar. He stepped into the chaos with eyes wide open, knowing the danger, yet driven by something deeper, compassion. He couldn't stomach the idea of giving up on them without a fight. For these dogs, Cesar wasn't just a trainer. He was their last shot at life. And he took that responsibility personally, carrying their pain and their hope on his shoulders. One of the most heart-wrenching testimonies to emerge from the trial, largely ignored by major news outlets, came from Sarah Thompson, a 58-year-old elementary school teacher from Colorado. Her story wasn't about controversy or criticism. It was about a life saved, multiple lives in fact, during what began as a simple dog training session. Choking back tears on the witness stand, Sarah recounted a moment in October 2018 that changed everything. Her family was at a breaking point, terrified of what might come next. At the center of it all was Bear, a Rottweiler mix adopted to help her daughter Emma cope with crippling grief after losing her husband in a tragic car accident. Bear had become Emma's anchor, her emotional support, her reason to wake up every morning, but as the dog grew older, so did his aggression. Lunging at strangers, snarling at other dogs, becoming a danger they couldn't control. They tried everything. Trainers came and went. Medications failed. Nothing worked. When Bear attacked a delivery driver, animal control gave them an ultimatum: correct the behavior or Bear would be euthanized. Emma was shattered, Sarah said softly. She had already lost the love of her life. Losing Bear too, it would have destroyed her. With nowhere else to turn, Sarah wrote a desperate letter to Cesar Milan. She never expected a reply. But then came the call. Cesar was coming. It felt like someone had thrown us a lifeline, she said. In that moment, we didn't just get a dog trainer, we got hope. For the Thompsons, Milan's visit didn't just save a dog, it saved a daughter. It held their family together when everything else was falling apart. Cesar noticed Miguel, asked why he wasn't inside, Martinez recalled. When Miguel explained their situation, Milan not only let him in for free, but offered to visit their home afterward. That Sunday, everything changed. Milan spent hours with them, but it wasn't just about Rex. He spoke directly to Miguel about discipline, energy, responsibility. I saw my withdrawn, angry son listening, really listening for the first time, she said. When Milan pointed out that Rex's aggression mirrored Miguel's anger, a switch flipped. Your dog reflects your energy, he told the teen. When you're angry, he tries to protect you. When you're calm, he can be too. Miguel began waking early to train Rex, following the structure Milan taught. He returned to school. His grades improved. He left the gang crowd behind. Later, Milan offered him a summer job. That job became a future. Today, Miguel runs a rehabilitation center for abandoned dogs and mentors at-risk youth, kids like he once was. Dozens of families have been touched by Miguel's work, Martinez said, and it all started with Cesar Milan. But perhaps the most unexpected testimony came from Martha Winters, a 72-year-old grandmother from rural Tennessee. Fragile but determined, she traveled across the country to tell a story that had never made headlines. "I live alone in a cabin deep in the Smoky Mountains," she began. After her husband passed, her children begged her to move, but she stayed. Her only companions were 3 rescue dogs, Bella, Max, and Cooper. One February, during a fierce snowstorm, her power failed. Night approached. Her generator wouldn't start. She was trapped in the cold. Through the blizzard, she saw a car had slid into a ditch on her driveway. Inside was Cesar Milan, lost on his way to a speaking engagement. He made his way through the snow, found her shivering, and sprang into action. With no power or phone service, Milan made the call. Move to the barn, build a fire. He gathered supplies, made a shelter from hay, and used the dog's body heat to keep her warm. "He talked to me all night," Winters said, wiping tears. "Stories from his childhood in Mexico, how he crossed the border with nothing. I think he was keeping me awake on purpose, knowing sleep could be fatal." When morning came, he hiked through deep snow until he found cell service. Help arrived soon after. Paramedics told her she wouldn't have survived without the fire and the dogs. Milan never spoke of the event. It only came to light when Winter's daughter saw his trial on TV and reached out to his legal team. "He didn't even remember my name," Winters said, smiling. "He just called me the lady with the 3 beautiful dogs." That's who he is. He didn't want credit. He just did what had to be done. Despite an outpouring of poignant accounts from numerous witnesses, the jury ultimately handed down a guilty verdict on the gravest allegations. When Judge Raymond Morris pronounced a life sentence, the atmosphere in the courtroom turned electric with shock. Cesar Milan, who had managed to keep his composure through most of the proceedings, finally broke. Observers described how the usually collected dog behaviorist appeared to buckle beneath the weight of the judge's pronouncement. "I've only ever wanted to help," Milan said, voice trembling during his closing remarks. "To create balance, to save dogs others had given up on, to teach people that with patience and proper leadership, relationships can heal. If I have failed or made mistakes along the way, I accept responsibility for those specific actions, but my heart has always been in the right place." What do you think? Was justice truly served, or was Cesar made a scapegoat for a broken system? Let us know in the comments below. Security personnel stepped in to escort him out, but before they could lead him away, Milan offered a deeply emotional plea to everyone. Milan arrived at their mountain home on a brisk autumn morning. What viewers never saw, because the episode never aired, was a moment that had nothing to do with dog behavior and everything to do with human survival. "He'd been working with Bear for about an hour," Thompson recalled, when he suddenly stopped and quietly asked my daughter if she'd been getting headaches. Emma admitted that yes, everyone in the house had been feeling off. They assumed it was stress. Milan asked to open a few windows. As fresh air swept in, he pulled Thompson aside and spoke in a hushed, urgent tone. He told her he suspected carbon monoxide poisoning. The headaches, the confusion, the flushed faces, signs he'd seen before. Even Bear's aggression, Milan believed, wasn't behavioral, but a desperate attempt to protect the family from an invisible killer. Without causing alarm, he had one of his crew members quietly call emergency services. Then he suggested the family continue Bear's training in the backyard. Within minutes, they were all safely outside. Fire trucks arrived 20 minutes later. A faulty heating system was leaking dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. The fire chief later told them the levels were lethal. They likely wouldn't have survived another night. When asked how she knew Milan had identified the danger, Thompson didn't hesitate. The paramedics asked who had recognized the signs, and Cesar said he'd seen it once before in another home with a suddenly aggressive dog. He followed up with the family for months, not about Bear, but about their health. Bear's behavior drastically improved once the gas was gone. With Milan's steady hand, the remaining issues were resolved through proper training. Today, Bear is a therapy dog, working with children who struggle to read, calm, focused, and gentle. "Cesar Milan didn't just save our dog," Thompson said, her voice trembling. "He saved my daughter, my grandchildren, and me. He saw what no one else did, acted without fanfare, and disappeared without seeking credit. That's who Cesar really is." Then came the testimony of Gloria Sanchez, a 62-year-old kindergarten teacher whose story moved the courtroom to tears. "My son David was 4 when a neighbor's dog attacked him," she said, voice shaking. The trauma left him terrified of all dogs, parks, school, playdates. It all became off-limits. By his teens, fear had turned into isolation, depression, and anxiety. Therapy helped little. The family was losing hope. One night they watched Cesar's show. Something about his calm, intuitive way with animals caught David's attention. For the first time, he showed interest instead of fear. They reached out to Cesar's center, never expecting a response. But Milan wrote back personally, inviting them to his ranch. He spent the entire weekend with David, slowly introducing him to balanced, gentle dogs, teaching him not just about behavior, but about understanding fear. "Cesar told my son something I'll never forget," Sanchez said through tears. "Fear is not respect. Respect is not fear. Once you know the difference, you'll never be afraid again." He refused any payment. Helping David was enough, he told her. Today, David works as a vet tech and volunteers in trauma therapy programs for children. His life changed entirely. "That's the real Cesar Milan," Sanchez said, her voice firm. "A man who gave his time and heart to a boy he didn't know, because that's just who he is." Another powerful voice came from Angela Martinez, a single mother who saw both her son and their dog saved by Milan. "My son Miguel was 16 when everything fell apart," she said. His father had abandoned them. Miguel turned angry, rebellious, falling in with a rough crowd. Their German shepherd, Rex, began acting out too, territorial and aggressive. After Rex snapped at a neighbor's child, they were given a choice: fix his behavior or surrender him. They couldn't afford help, but Miguel idolized Cesar. He stood outside a local workshop venue for hours, hoping to glimpse him. What happened next stunned them, one who supported him. "Please take care of the dogs. Dog in America. The food comes to him, so the dog doesn't have to work for food, right? So the dog gets praised by everything. Don't abandon the principles of calm, assertive energy. Balance is still the key, for dogs and for life. This work must continue, even if I cannot be the one to lead it." Tears were not contained that day. Even among some jury members, eyes were wet. Outside the courthouse, hundreds of people gathered, many with their own dogs and signs declaring, "Who will help the helpless dogs now?" And Cesar saved my family. Among them, there was a special wave of sadness felt by mothers and grandmothers who viewed Milan not merely as a trainer, but as a guiding influence whose lessons extended beyond dog obedience and into everyday family life. "Cesar didn't just teach me about dogs," said Patricia Williams, 67, a grandmother of 5. She credited Milan with transforming a reactive rescue dog into a calm companion. "He taught me how to set limits gently, how to stay composed in a crisis, and how every ounce of energy in a home matters. I used his approach with my grandchildren, and it changed everything. It made me a better grandmother." Williams is just one of thousands who've penned letters of support to Milan in prison and contributed to his legal defense fund for the upcoming appeal. When we were about to give up on our troubled dogs, he gave us hope. We aren't giving up on him now. Elizabeth Morgan, 59, traveled all the way from Seattle to witness the sentencing. Alongside her stood her former problem dog, now a steadfast service animal, a German shepherd once labeled too aggressive to be saved. "Before Max, I was confined to my home by PTSD," Morgan said. Affection reflected in her touch as she stroked the dog's head. He was scheduled to be put down because of his behavior, but a trainer using Cesar's methods tried one last time. Now he alerts me before panic attacks, guides me through public spaces, and has given me my life back. She paused, then added, "There are so many dogs like Max, and so many people like me, all indebted to Cesar's work." Milan's legal counsel, meanwhile, remains moderately hopeful about the forthcoming appeal. They point to a series of procedural concerns they believe could challenge not just the conviction, but also the unexpectedly harsh sentence. "A life sentence for non-violent charges related to training methods is beyond excessive," insisted lead attorney Rebecca Martinez. "We maintain Mr. Milan's innocence on the most serious accusations and are convinced the appeals court will acknowledge the significant legal problems in this case." Through a touching letter released by his family, Milan expressed gratitude for the ongoing encouragement and reaffirmed his commitment to his life's mission, even from behind bars. "My body may be confined, but my spirit remains dedicated to creating balance and harmony between humans and dogs. Each day, I receive countless letters describing lives changed, and dogs rescued because of the principles I was blessed to share. These messages keep me going. Please continue this mission of rehabilitation and second chances. Our work has always been about more than dog training. It has been about opening hearts, minds, and homes to animals who need us. That work must go on with or without me. His supporters, unified in their resolve, pledged to carry his legacy forward, while also seeking justice for a man who taught them how to remain calm and assertive in life's fiercest storms. In conclusion, the shocking case of Rick Harrison's legal troubles has left many questioning the line between fame and downfall. What started as a beloved reality TV show and a successful pawn shop empire has turned into a saga of legal drama and personal loss. Rick's story serves as a stark reminder that even the most revered figures are not immune to the consequences of their actions. As the Harrison family works to rebuild and restore trust, it's clear that the road ahead will be difficult, but not impossible. Let's keep supporting the Harrison family during this challenging time, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video.